Hey, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about angles. Now, angles is going to be your foundation of geometry when you all get into that. Now, what an angle is it's pretty much the space between two line segments or two lines. And we measure it in one of two ways. We either say, okay, what's the space here? And that's an angle. Or we say, hey, what is this space? Now, you should know that if you add that pink space with that red space, if I was a better drawer, you would get a full circle. Angles are measured usually in degrees, so this circle is 360 degrees. So every time, every circle that you draw, as long as it's a good circle, is 360 degrees. 360, 360, 360, 360. So you can use this to find missing angle measures, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. So for example, let's say you know this is 30 degrees. I may say, hey, what is this pink? And you may say, I don't know. Or you may say, wait a second, if I put this all together, I get 360. That's 30. So 330 is what's left over. All right? Now, that's kind of like a basic overview on angles. Now, what we're going to be talking about is something called angle pairs, and that's really just classifying different types of angles, and then also making sure we know how to view angles. Okay, so here, or know how to write angles. So here's where we go. So, let's say you have this line here, and then this here. Okay, I have angle A, and I have angle B. It's that space in between. All right, so here's a couple things that we know. Because these angles are neighbors. So like think about you have your house, you have a neighbor next to your house. These two angles are neighbors. They share a property line. They share a wall. So they're neighbors. That means that they are called adjacent angles. Okay? So if you have like, I don't know, see? These are adjacent angles because they're neighbors. They share a property line. They have that in common. They have that in common. All right. Now, here's what's cool about neighbors is that, or adjacent angles, and that is they can have different kinds of adjacent angles. You can have just normal adjacent angles, or you could have special adjacent angles, like in this picture. These are not only adjacent, but if you notice, if you put this angle, angle A and angle B together, you get a straight line. So because of that, it makes a straight line. That means these angles are called supplementary. And do you know how many degrees are in a straight line? I don't know, you may not. So if you think about it like this, if you put angle A and angle B together, you get a half circle. Well, if a full circle is 360, a half circle would be half that, so 180 degrees. So that means that angle A plus angle B equal 180. They are supplementary and adjacent. All right? One more kind of adjacent angle I need to go over with you. And that, that's B and angle A. And then we have a little box there. Now that box means that this angle is 90 degrees. because we have two adjacent angles, because they have that, they share that property line, they're neighbors. We have two adjacent angles, and they measure 90 degrees. If you add them up, like A and B is 90 degrees, that makes them complementary. Oops, wow, what happened? Go back. There we go. So here's what we have. We have adjacent and normal. We have adjacent and supplementary. And we have adjacent and complementary. Your first exercise is going to be telling the difference between these. But if I only gave you those, it would be too easy. So I'm going to give you one more kind of angle to look at. Let me shrink this down a little bit. And that is called a vertical angle. Okay? Now, what a vertical angle is they are not adjacent. Vertical angles are totes not adjacent. So we have all these adjacent angles. Awesome. Too much. So it's a new stylus. I'm trying to get used to it. Now, we have neighbors. So we have angles that are neighbors. They're adjacent. They share a wall. Now, what if we had angles that didn't do that? What if instead we had, let's say we have this. We have a line here. We have a line here. And then we have angle A and angle B. Okay? Now, these are not adjacent. They don't share a wall. They don't share a line. They are not adjacent. But if you notice, these are really close to each other. These angles are kissing. And it looks like this is that same distance as this. They're directly across from each other. The angles are a little kissing. Like you see, look, they're little kissy fish. So you got like an eye. See, no, that one. There you go. You have an eye. See, they're like little Dora fish. Got little fins. Got a little thing there. Look at that. Oh, they look so cute. They're kissing fish. Anyway, they are vertical angles. So they're vertical angles and they are always equal. So if A was 30 degrees, then B would have to be 30 degrees. And you can even take that. So let's erase some of the kissy fish. No, too much. Okay. There we go. Singing a song. Okay. So just by knowing that these are vertical, and by knowing one of these angles, you could figure out every other angle here. Okay? This is the power of knowing angle pair relationships. So let's say we know that angle A is 30 degrees. Well, if that's the case, these are vertical, A and B. So that means B would have to be 30 degrees. Then you could say, wait a second, look. This is a straight line. And look, this angle is adjacent, B is adjacent to whatever this was. So let's see here. That means they're adjacent. Oh, look, they're a straight line. That means they're supplementary. So that means they add to 180. So 30 plus what is 180? Oh, 150. So that's 150 degrees. And look, they're vertical. They're kissing. So that means that's 150 degrees. So by knowing angle pair relationships, we can get that. Now, we're not quite there yet. Right now, we are at the labeling and identifying angles. So let's look at a couple of those. Let's see here. We have these two angles, A and B. Well, do they share a wall? Oh, yes, they do. So that means they are adjacent. Remember, there's different kinds of adjacent angles. Do they, let me make that kind of a, like, there you go. Just look. So when they join, oh, you get a straight line. That means they're supplementary as well. That means they add up to 180. Okay, so you select both of those. Let's look at this one. Okay. Oh, look. These two angles share a side, so they're adjacent. And what do they add up to? Do they add up into anything special? Well, we got that and that. Oh, look. They add up to a right angle. That means they're complementary. What about these ones? Okay, let's see. Well, oh, look. They share a side, so they're totally adjacent. Now let's see. So this, well, that's not a straight line. So they're not supplementary. And it's not a right angle, so it's not complementary. And those are definitely not kissing. They're like hugging. And so it's not vertical. So that's just adjacent. What about this? Well, they are definitely not sharing a side. So they are not, since they're not sharing a side, we know they're not adjacent. And then therefore they're not supplementary or complementary. So, oh, look, they're kissing. Little kisses. Kissing, kissing. That means they're the same, and that means they are vertical. Okay, there we go.